Lovelies, my name is Jessica and welcome to Makeup Misfit. And today I am so excited to restart Project Level Up. Now, couple of things. For one, I think this is going to be my main eyeshadow project for this year. And that means that we will more than likely not be doing panless eyeshadows, which I'm kind of sad about, but at the same time, I had stopped that project almost halfway, if not a little more than halfway through last year. All I was getting was the same three shades, just different variations. It was either a blue, purple, and yellow. And as much as I would have liked to try and see how many of those I could actually hit pan on in my collection throughout the year, it was getting a little tiring continuing to roll in the exact same shades. So I took a break. And I think right now I'm going to continue that break. It was just a little too overwhelming to have two big eyeshadow projects going at the same time. And I really love panless eyeshadows. I love watching it. I love binging it. I love doing it. I love the variations in it. But I also really love Project Level Up and just really focusing in on one specific palette at a time and getting like all of the usage that I possibly can in it, hitting all of the shades that I need to as many times as I need to, and really hitting all of the pans that I can within that level as well. So I think I'm going to continue to have this be my main project for eyeshadows this year. I will definitely pull other eyeshadows into projects. This isn't going to be like the end all be all of it, but we'll see how this year goes, and if it's going really well, maybe I will start panless eyeshadows a little bit later, or somehow try and find a way to pull that project into other projects. We'll have to see how this goes. I also just want to note I might add a little twist to this project at the very end. It's not going to be a part of panel's eye or a part of Project Level Up necessarily when it comes to the palettes. It's more like an addition, and I could do it completely separate from this project, but I think this would also be like a fun little way to just add something to this. So I might do that, but we will chat about that later. So if you watched me do this project last year, I changed it up from how I did it back in 23. And last year what I did was I really went through all of my eyeshadow palettes, had everything spread out all over my floor, separated it between panless eyeshadows, Project Level Up, and just other projects that I wanted to work on, and some palettes that I didn't want to work on at all really. Or I had free reign of them if I chose to at the time. I could use them at a later time. Last year, what I did was with my Project Level Up palettes, I narrowed it down even more and selected very specific palettes for each level. I had a way of doing it, what I wanted to work on for each level, like my Natasha Denona palettes were only for level 1. And I was happy that I did it that way because I got my harder palettes out of the way. I only made it to level 4. I shouldn't say only, because I made it further last year than I did back in 23. So I made it to level 4 last year, which means I didn't get to do a second round. So I really only used one Natasha palette, but I'm okay with that. And then each level, I was really excited about the palettes that I was able to choose within that little grouping. There was about 4 palettes per level. On average, and more often than not, I was so excited about the palettes that actually were selected. It was still random, and I was just really having a good time. I managed to get pretty far. I was really happy with the progress that I had made over the past year. So I'm hoping that this year is going to be just as good, if not even better. What I'm doing this year is I really went through my palettes again and even more so narrowed down the selection of palettes that I want to use for this project. I narrowed it down to the point where I only have 7 palettes that I really want to focus in on for this project to get the love that I think they deserve, because a lot of them do not have pans whatsoever, and some of these have very little to almost no usage on them, which I really want to start to pull them in, show them the love that they deserve. I've had a few of these around in my collection for a little while now, so it's about time that I really get a good opinion on them. And just start to hopefully love them a little bit more than I already do. So what I'm going to do is all 7 palettes, I'm just going to randomize throughout each level. I'm not going to pick a specific palette for a level. Hopefully, I'm kind of hoping I get, some a little bit later, some a little bit earlier, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I'm not going to be upset either way. And when I chose these palettes, that's one thing that was on my checklist of what I wanted to pull in for this project, was a palette that I would be okay with using for level 1, or also using for hopefully level 5 or even level 4. Now, because there's only 7 palettes, I'm really hoping that I can focus in on this, especially with this being my main eyeshadow project, and get past level 5 and maybe even hit level 7. Now, this project, once you hit level 5, you can restart and go back to level 1 and see if you can do a whole second round of it within the year, or you can continue on up to level whatever you want. Now, level 7 would be my max just because that's how many palettes I have in here. But that would be such an achievement if I was able to do that. I would be so excited about it. If not, then at some point, the palettes that I don't get used in this project, either I'll bring them in again next year or find something else for them. But that is for a later date because we have all year to go to see what we are going to be able to use up. Now, I have them all listed out. I'm just going to quickly show you guys what all of the palettes are, and then I'm going to randomize my very first level 1 project or level 1 palette. And I forgot to mention that, as always, everything is linked down below. So Sophia Alexandra is linked as she's the creator of this project, and everybody absolutely loves this, so please go check out anybody that you know of who might be doing this. So let's get into showing you guys the palette in no particular order. The very first one I'm going to show you guys because I actually had this in a project recently, and then after I had already uploaded and everything, I realized I probably shouldn't have included this because I was supposed to use this in this project. But luckily, the goal that I had set for myself was an easy goal that wasn't going to affect this project too much. So subconsciously, I knew I shouldn't be doing it, but I completely forgot about it. That is the Sugar Dreams Sugar Drizzle Sugar Dreams palette. So I have not used it since the last time I had this in a project, and I can't quite remember which one it was, maybe #beauty_chest or something. And my goal for that was just to use every shade one time, so I knew that I wasn't going to hit pan in anything, which thankfully I didn't. Every shade has been used the one time. This is the only shade in the palette that has actually only one usage on it. The rest of them I've already used a handful of times since I've gotten this palette. I really enjoy this, and this is one that I actually wouldn't mind if it was later on in the project, just to really show this a lot more love. This is the one that is like actually I had it in for some, I can't remember what the project was, but the prompt was like unique to your collection because this is the only full shimmer palette that I have. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I adore this. This is the only palette that I have by Sugar Drizzle, and I would like to try a couple more, but we'll see how it goes. So no matter what level this happens to roll in at, hopefully it does at some point. I know I'm going to thoroughly enjoy using this palette. So that is one option. Another option that I have is the Gimme Glow Coral Nightlife palette. Now, this is not the original colors from this palette. Most of them, or some of them are, but some of them aren't. So this is a little mix of a couple of things. When I did first purchase this, it had a couple duplicate colors that I already had. So I got these two replaced in there. This one, I believe, is Halo, and this one is Nude Rose, which was a single that I had. This was also just another single. And then I think the rest of these ones all came with the palette. I think this would be a really good like spring into summertime palette with the bright fun colors, and you've got your little bit of pastels in here that you can kind of use. So I think this would be good for like a level 3 palette, hopefully. I'm just trying to think like springtime, summertime, where I might be at by that point. But again, you know, most of my palettes might end up being shimmers, but that's okay. I would like to at least be able to, you know, get a good grip on what I'm using. Next, I have a neutral palette, which is by Artist Couture. This is the Supreme Nudes, and this one has very little usage on it except for this shade right here called Opulence. It has a little bit, but not very much at all. Most of this is actually untouched. Now, this shade right here is like that bone shade that I use to set down my lids with, and I'm currently using one of the shades in the Sigma Quarter Rosa palette, and I'm almost finished that. So I'm kind of thinking that once I finish that, I'm going to reach for this. Now, I like to use up the shades completely before I move on to a new one. So I might start to reach for this one, especially if it does get pulled into a project. So in that case, I'm not going to count the pan as one of the pans that I need to hit for the level that this happens to be rolled into, but I will count the usage. If I start to use this before this gets pulled into the project, whatever usage I have on this shade here prior to it being pulled in is not going to count. It's just going to count as it's only in for that specific level. And then anything afterwards obviously won't count either. So I am excited to actually use this one because I've heard such good things about this palette. And like I said, it has very, very little usage, if not almost none. And that magnetic closure just, I absolutely love it. It gets me every time. So I would be excited to reach for this one as well. Another neutral palette is the BH Cosmetics Sugar Cone palette, and this is the only one that I have from the Sweet Shop collection. I figured starting off neutral would be the best way to go, but unfortunately I never continued on and purchased any of the other ones, which I still kind of regret a little bit. But I love that this is just such a good formula. I thoroughly enjoy this palette. I've definitely used it a few times, more so probably like these 4 shades here over, you know, this shimmer and maybe even this matte. This matte is a little bit too dark for me to set down my lids, so when this palette, or if this palette gets rolled in, I'm not going to use this to set down my lids at all, so this will be used just as any other shade in this palette would be. So that is this one, and I'm really excited to show this one a lot more love as well because I've had this for quite a while. One palette that I was actually working on last year, or I tried to work on, I had it in a project for 2 different prompts. One of the prompts, my goal was to use this palette, no pan left behind style, so just one use in every shade. And then one of the other, actually no, it was, or was it a project level up type goal where I wanted to use every single shade in the palette once, and then I wanted to hit one pan, but I think I had split it up between 2 different prompts, and that is my Cosmic Brushes Delicious Delights palette. I was so excited when I saw this palette online. I was so excited when I purchased it, when I received it. I was excited to use it, and then I pulled it into the project and I had a very difficult time reaching for it. I think at the time, I just wasn't really craving these shades or really wanting to reach for them. This is the one that I wanted to hit pan on. Never did that. I did reach for it a couple of times. It was definitely more than the one time only. And surprisingly, I think the only shades that I really used one time were like a couple of these greens and maybe like this shade here. I can't even remember. Maybe this one. But I want to really get some good use on this palette because I was so excited and I've heard such good things, and there's other palettes from this brand that I want to try. The neutrals is one of them. So I feel like I don't want to purchase that one yet until I really get a better opinion, or actually a opinion formed on this palette. And I feel like pulling it into this project is a good way to really make sure I actually use this, because it was in a prompt-based project and I just kind of let it go. Whereas if I'm really making this one of my main projects, I'm not going to be able to do that. So it's a good way to actually get and show some love on that palette. Next, I have another Give Me Glow palette. This is the Summer Vibes, but again, this is kind of mixed up. It's not the original. I have mixed a couple of shades into here. This one is Electric Unicorn. Watermelon. This is not actually that shade. I can't remember what the name of this one is. This one is a Limonade, maybe, I believe it's called. But the rest I think actually belong to this palette. Now, this is the palette that has the one and only pan, and which is totally fine. But I want to show this a lot more love because I really haven't used Give Me Glow too much. I had my Pastel Dreams palette in for level 4, which was the end of last year's project. And so I was really focusing in on that palette, but the rest of my Give Me Glow shadows have just been kind of sitting off to the side. So obviously I will not count this pan towards whatever level it's in, but I will count the usage that I'm still going to get on it. I'm not excluding the shade from the palette. I just can't use it as one of the pans, which is more than fine, because at least I can kind of expand the amount of pans that are going to be in this palette, which makes me really happy as well. So I'm excited to dip into here because this is like my favorite Give Me Glow shade of all time, and I'm just really excited. I enjoy wearing these ones. I like these neutral shades. This is a really nice shade as well, so I'm excited to show this one a little bit more love. And then last but not least, and maybe kind of surprisingly, I decided to pull in my one and only Pat McGrath palette. This is the Huetopian Dreams palette. And I had this in a project as well last year where my goal was, once again, no pan left behind. I just wanted to use every shade in here one time. So I'm really curious to see where this is going to end up this year. Because I know that it's a little bit harder to hit pan on, especially the mattes. But that's okay. These shimmers I really like. I did enjoy this palette. When I first got this, I swatched it out. I think I did like an unboxing with you guys, but at least I swatched it out and I was really like unsure about how I felt about it. I loved seeing it online, but of course in person it's not always the same. But when I was using this, I did enjoy it. So I want to really form a better opinion on this one because there's still a part of me that wants the Moonlit palette. And I don't know if I'm going to purchase it or not, but I really want to get some use on this one before I make a final decision because these palettes in Canadian are like almost $200 after tax. It's like $175 pre-tax and then after that. So it's like I used a gift card, or I think it was like my 100 points or something like that on it, or the 100. I just saw like the mail being delivered and somebody walked down the stairs, and then I just looked over again and somebody walked down the stairs again. So I don't know if there was two people or what. Anyways, I'm a little distracted from that, but anyways, I used like my $100 from like those point perks or something like that. So yeah, I don't know if I'm actually going to get another one because I still spent a decent amount on this, but I really want to show this some love because of that as well. Even though it's one of my more like expensive palettes, I feel like I really want to actually use up my stuff and not save my fancy luxurious, not that I have luxurious makeup, but you know what I mean, my higher end stuff. Even though I don't pay full price for it, I would still like to use it and not feel like I need to save it for a special occasion. So this is one of the ones that I'm super curious to see where this is going to come in, but I am excited nonetheless. So now is the time we are going to randomize 1 through 7 and figure out what palette I'm going to be using for level 1. So the way that I have it written out in my notebook is Huetopian Dream, Supreme Nudes, Coral Nightlife, Sugar Dreams, Sugar Cone, Delicious Delights, and Summer Vibes. So we're going to see which one I end up rolling. So let me get to my app. I'm so excited about this one this year. Okay. Okay, so we have 1 through 7. And let's see. Number 1. Okay, so you know what? That's not bad because this is going to be my level 1 palette. I only have to hit 1 pan, so it's more than likely going to be a shimmer. And again, like it was in the last project that this was in, I just have to use every shade in this palette one time. So that's not going to be bad. I was able to do that last time. I think with the project that this was in, for some reason, I just like kind of forgot to keep track, or I have a hard time keeping track sometimes. So I would like to actually try and get back into, I have a bullet notebook that I found last night actually, and that's what I was using to draw out my palettes for this project last year. So I think I'm going to do that again because it really did help me keep track. I just have to remember to actually mark it. And when I had this in a project last year, like I said, I kind of restarted it because I had used some, but then I forgot which ones I used, and I tried to look to see which ones had looked like it had at least a single use in it. Some I could tell, some I couldn't, so I just restarted it. So this time around, using my little bullet notebook, I hope that I'm actually able to keep track a little bit better. I think this might take me a couple of months for sure. Using every single shade in here once isn't going to be a big deal, but hitting that pan, I have no idea which shade I want to do. I think it's going to be one of these two though. I think it's just like these two are so fun, and I think that that's kind of what I'm gearing towards. And I actually like the fact that I got this in the wintertime still, because like the purple, you know, it's still like cool. It's still frosty. It's still, even the purple or the white shimmer here, the neutrals just makes it easier. Even this pop of color, like it's not that intense, right? So it's like, it might look like it is, but I can easily, okay, maybe it's a little more tense than I thought it was. But I mean, I can still make that work. Like I can do like a almost berry look with something like this, and maybe this one. Like, I'm just excited to use this for the first level. I was kind of hoping that I would get this for level 1, maybe level 2, just because I know that hitting pan in this might be a little bit difficult, but I was also hoping like level 2 so I could get a little bit more use on a couple of the shades in here, but that's fine. I'm happy with this being on level 1. I'm happy that this is rolled into this project, period. Because like I said, there's 7 palettes, so I might not get to 2 of them. I might not get to 3 of them. We'll have to see. But knowing that this is going to be in here for a little bit is really exciting, especially at the very beginning. So I'm pretty excited about this one this year. I hope you guys are as well. Let me know if you're doing this project. I would love to come and watch you. Like I said, I adore this one so much. And again, as always, everything is linked down below. So I will have the palette that I'm working on for each level down there, as well as Sophia Alexandra will be linked, as she's the creator, and whatever else I might decide to throw in there. So I probably will add my little like guidelines this year. That does remind me, I said I wanted to do a little bit of like an addition. I probably shouldn't. Oh no, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I gotta go get my makeup wipes and take this off because I have my like Taylor Swift The Eras Tour hoodie. I never went, but I got it for Christmas, and now I got eyeshadow on the inside of this, so I need to go find my makeup wipes and wipe it off. But those are probably in my bathroom right now. Actually, let me go do that because then I can swatch the little addition part that I want to do. Okay, it's gone. So what I wanted to do is really try and work through my singles this year. I have quite a few. I don't think I bought any last year, and even though there's some that I really want, I'm going to more than likely not be buying single eyeshadows, at least for now. I thought that I would get a lot more use on them than I really do, and it's just not. I prefer palettes. It is what it is. I just prefer palettes. Even putting them into a palette, I tend to not really reach for them too much. The only way I've been reaching for, or will kind of reach for them, is if I throw them into like an actual palette like this. Like I said, this one's one of my singles. This one's one of my singles. I think this one was one of my singles. Something like this is okay, but putting them into like a magnetic palette and putting them all together, it's not really working for me very well. And I have quite a few to get through. And I know towards the end of my pan those eyeshadows, I said I really wanted, like, I had included that into there. And I was really hoping to get some good use on them. I did over the year of 23, not so much last year. And because I'm putting a little bit of a pause on pan those eyeshadows, I figured this would be a fun way to bring in singles to this project as well, as a little fun addition. So what I want to do is I'm thinking each level I reach is how many singles I want to bring into this project as well. So the higher I get up, it might get a little more difficult, especially if I'm pulling eyeshadows into other projects. I still want to, be able to do that, but I don't want to spread myself super thin. So when I reach those, my goals on them might change. We'll just have to see how it goes. But for now, I want to pull in one single, and this single I actually want to finish up. I had it in a project quite a while back. It broke on me on camera. I repressed it, and I think it's time for me to finish off this shade. It is my one and only clionadh single, and there is a couple that I want, but I am holding off so hard. This is in a Kevin Aquan duo. One of the shades in here I completely finished off. And one of them only has a very little amount of use, so we're not going to worry about this shade right here. But this, I'm going to try and hold this without it falling. This is my clionadh shade in Sunbeam, and I absolutely love and adore that shade so much. But with only this much being left, I still haven't reached for it, so I really want to finish off this shadow, and pulling it into this project, making this little addition, I think I'll be able to do that. I can keep it out on my counter in my bathroom, which is, I kind of rearranged things so I don't have like my daily makeup in there necessarily, but I can keep this in there and just make sure that I reach for it a lot more than I have been, because I haven't been reaching for it at all. But yeah, that's what I want to do. And I really think that I can probably more than likely finish this off by the next update. Or at least by the time I hit level 2. I don't expect to hit level 2 by the next update, but if I am able to finish this off by then, I'm just going to let it be and I'm not going to pull in another single. I don't think, anyways, now that I think about it, I think I'm just going to stick with however many I have for that level, not pull in any extras. Would be a good way to get through them, but I don't think I'm going to do that to myself, because I think there's going to be a lot of overlap if I don't hit pan or whatever my goal is on that shade before I hit the next level. So one shade, however many shades per level. So I'm on level 1, so this is my one single that I want to use. It's just super loose in there, so that's why this is closed, but I will love to actually finish that. I would love to finish it up. As much as I adore that shade and I want more singles from them, I'm not going to purchase any. They're just not for me. I thought they might be, but I was wrong. So I have a lot to get through. There's some that I definitely want to completely finish off this year, and I'm thinking that this might be a good way to do that. If I do find that it's a little too overwhelming, I might just kind of like make it separate. Maybe do a completely separate project on it, even though I think it would kind of be the same, or just kind of pull them into other projects throughout the year. We'll have to see how it goes, but I wanted to try and give this a go, see how it's going to happen, and get my feelings on it throughout the year. So I hope you guys enjoy that part. And that is it for this first episode of Project Level Up for 2025. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you stick around and watch my progress this year, because I'm so curious to see how this is going to go. And that is it for now. So thank you guys once again. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And I will see you guys all later. Bye.